Greetings and welcome to the introduction to astronomy. In this week's exploration of the solar system, we are going to talk about the Giotto spacecraft and its exploration within our solar system. So what was the Giotto craft? Well, it was designed to study Halley's Comet, and it is the last of the ones that we will talk about in terms of exploration of Halley's Comet. So it's the last of those that was part of that armada we have discussed over the past few weeks. Now, it was launched in July of 1985 and flew by Halley's Comet in March of 1986. This flew much closer than the others, and we can see the orbits here. In the green, we see the Giotto probe, and we can see where it met Halley's Comet here, where the green and red lines intersect. So that was its orbit as it left Earth. It never went very far from Earth's orbit, but was able to observe then two different comets. So Halley's Comet in 1986. Now it traveled only 600 kilometers from the nucleus. And if you recall our discussion from the other craft, that is much closer than the previous Russian and Japanese craft traveled. This was actually the first time we got images of a comet nucleus. And we can see one of those here. And here we see the image of the cometary nucleus. So this is Halley's Comet as seen by the Giotto spacecraft. So these are the first time we got the images of the nucleus of a comet, the actual part of the comet itself that we cannot see when we look at it from Earth, because it gets surrounded by too much other material. All that material around it blocks out the nucleus of the comet. It's also a very tiny object by comparison. In fact, if we want to look at some size comparisons, we can do that here. And we can see several different comets here. And you see Halley's Comet all way off to the left. Not the last one, but getting close there, only about 7 miles across. So that's much smaller and very hard to see from any kind of great distance. So we're not able to really see it in any time. First of all, they're dark, they're small, the cometary nuclei, and they're surrounded by other material, which makes them very difficult to see. So what we can see is that the spacecraft Giotto continued outward and actually traveled by another comet known as Grigg-Skellerup. And it flew by that one in July of 1992, only 200 kilometers from the nucleus. Now, flying by this comet, the amount of time, almost over 6 years in between those two, meant that it had to be put into hibernation. And this was the first time we had put one into hibernation and then brought it back out and able to really reactivate it. So after we'd hibernated a spacecraft and then brought it back to being able to be used. So able to really study two comets out of this for the price of one. What did we find out? Well, we learned some things about the composition of the comet, confirming, as we knew, that they were mostly rock, a little bit of rock and mainly icy material that make up the nucleus. They have what is called a very primitive composition, meaning that they are the material that was left over from the very early formation of our solar system. So let's go ahead and finish up today with our summary. And what we've looked at today is that the Giotto spacecraft was launched and primarily to study Halley's Comet, provided the very first detailed images of a cometary nucleus that we could see here on Earth. It was then put into hibernation, woken up 6 years later to observe a second comet. So that concludes this exploration of the solar system on the Giotto spacecraft. We'll be back again next week for another exploration of the solar system. So until then, have a great day, everyone, and I will see you in class.